Hello, I'm Ric Edelman, and this is The Truth About Money. On today's show,
she was truly the best financial planner I have ever met.
They like to spend it all on toy cars and candy.
What are you asking her for?
She's the one. She's the one. I
Because if she doesn't go for it, you don't get to do it.
401ks, are those something that we can continue to actually invest in?
That's all coming up right here, right now on The Truth About Money. Do your kids get an allowance? What do they do with that money? We asked that question to people on the street. Here's what they told us.
He spends it on Xbox games.
And they like to spend it all on toy cars and candy.
One of them saved, most of them spent it.
My son has an allowance, save some and spend some. He's just learning the concept of save for a while to get something big.
It's up to us to train him, and I think he does it well. In fact, you'd think it'd burn a hole in his pocket, but no, he actually does wait to get the things that he really wants.
They handled it probably like the examples that they saw.
They're very poor at it, and I try to badger them about you take 10% for ties, you save some, you spend some.
We make him save 50% of everything he gets though.
Yeah, my kids are old, but they still get allowance.
Kids need your guidance on everything, and that includes handling money. If your young children are like most, they get money from allowances, birthday gifts, babysitting, mowing lawns, whatever. Make sure your kids are handling their money the right way to give them lessons that will last their entire lives. First, take some of their money from them and call it taxes. Kids need to be taught at a very early age that they don't get to keep everything they earn. Just as the government takes 1/3 of your money in taxes, you should withhold 1/3 of your child's allowance, birthday money, or babysitting earnings. Help them to understand the reality of taxes. And now, without your child knowing it, put that money into a savings or investment account. When your child's ready to buy a car or go to college, hand over the account. Not only will your child think you're a hero, they'll learn the value of long-term investing. Second, let your child spend some of that money immediately. A benefit of obtaining money, after all, is the joy of spending it. Allow your child to buy whatever they want, candy or a small toy, whatever. Let your son or daughter learn the enjoyment that money can bring. Third, demand that your child save some of their money for a long-term goal, like a bicycle, an iPad, or a video game, so that they learn about delayed gratification. You can even choose a far-off goal like a car or college. The important thing is that the child be trained to save long-term for big goals that they can't afford immediately. And finally, help your children understand that money brings opportunity, and it also brings obligation. Money creates the responsibility for them to help those who are less fortunate. For every dollar your child gets, require them to donate 10% or more to those in need. Let the kids decide who receives the money, whether it's a church or a charity or even a less fortunate friend. They'll soon learn that the greatest joy of money comes from using it to help others. Spend a little, save a little, give a little, tax a little. Teach your children what money is really all about, and they'll form good money habits that will last their entire lives. One of my producers wanted to go on vacation in Phoenix. They thought by taking a camera, I'd pay for the trip. Here's the footage they sent.
401ks, are those something that we can continue to actually invest in? And in the long run, how is that going to affect me in this economy today?
Is your 401k enough to secure your financial future? No, but it's the most important place to start. It's vital that you participate in your 401k at work to the maximum your boss allows, and you need to do so as soon as possible. No, doing so isn't enough, but it's where you need to start. In addition to saving for your retirement plan at work, you need to save outside your retirement plan as well. Remember, the more money you save and the sooner you begin, the more money you're going to have at retirement. And don't worry about the fact that, gee, the last 10 years haven't been as good as you would have liked. In fact, the last 10 years were a lot better than you probably think that they were. And keep in mind that we're not talking about any particular 10-year period. You're going to be investing for the next 40 years of your career. And if you look at any 30 or 40-year time period in American history, you'll discover that fabulous profits have been generated every single time. So get started now, join the plan at work, and keep doing it no matter what until you reach retirement. The questions that people ask me at our live seminars are probably the same questions you have on your mind. Take a look.
Hi, Rick. I have a question about stock market returns. In the past, I was told that we should expect to get about 11 to 12% of returns in the stock market. Now, today is 8%. And I do wonder, why are most financial advisors saying that we should expect 8% returns? Where is that number coming from?
Well, frankly, I think the 10 to 12% return was nonsense. I don't think you ever should have expected a 12% return. And yet it's kind of funny because so many people expect that they're going to earn 15 or 20% from their investments. Not going to happen. Forget about it. Even 12% is ridiculously optimistic. If we take a look at the historical return of the S&P 500 stock index since 1926, the average annual return is just under 10% per year. Now, the stock market historically has performed better than any other asset class. Better than gold, better than oil, better than bonds, better than real estate, better than lottery tickets. It's better than any other asset class. So if the stock market has earned, since 1926, about 10% a year, and that's the best that you've ever gotten from any other asset class over long periods, it's unreasonable to expect 12 on a long-term sustained basis. Oh, sure, in any one year, anything can happen. And we've seen the stock market in some years make 40%, and we've seen it in some years lose 40%. But on average, 10. But here's the interesting thing. That 10% number is before fees. In other words, when you can't buy the S&P 500 stock index. That's a theoretical number just as a proxy to give us an idea of what's going on in the economy. In order for you to buy investments that replicate the S&P 500 stock index, you've got to buy an exchange-traded fund or a mutual fund, or you've got to buy the stocks and bonds themselves or what have you, and you're going to incur expenses when you do that. And by the time you subtract those expenses and then subtract what else? The taxes, you're not going to end up with a 10% return. So anybody who has ever suggested that you're going to get 12 has been selling you something. These days, some investment advisors are suggesting that due to the nature of the economic environment, the stock market isn't probably going to hit its long-term average of 10%. Some people are saying it's only going to do 8. I don't believe that. I think that the stock market is going to continue over the next 80 years to provide the same average annual return it has given us over the past 80 years. There's no fundamental reason why that isn't going to be the case. So I think you should go with the assumption that on a diversified portfolio, a 6 or 7 or 8 or 9% return is perfectly reasonable to assume on a long-term basis. If you're going to assume 10 or 12 or 15 or 20, you're probably going to get disappointed. Here's the good news. At a 7 or an 8 or a 9% rate of return, you can achieve all of your financial goals. In other words, go ahead and save, do it in a diversified manner, and it's going to work out.
Thank you.
Hi, Rick. Good to see you. Question. I have a 6-year mortgage left on a 15-year mortgage. And I can, as a federal employee, maybe work up another 10 years. Looking at my record, my mortgage company sent me an offer saying that, hey, if you would like to refinance for another 10 years, we'll give you a good rate and all that. That makes a difference of about $500 per month in my cash flow.
Better or worse?
Worse. Oh, better, sorry.
So your monthly payment will go down by $500?
Go down because the previous one was high.
So if you refinance, you will have a $500 lower payment, but you'll have a payment for an extra 10 years.
Next 10 years, and looks like I should be able to work for next 10 years as it stands now. Should I do it?
Is this a trick question? You might want to consider, instead of refinancing back to another 15-year loan, which is what they're kind of suggesting you do, go refinance for a 30-year loan. If a 15-year loan is going to lower your payment by $500, guess how much money you'll save monthly with a 30-year loan? You'll be saving so much money on a monthly basis that you can take all that savings, throw it into savings and investments, and over the next 10 years, you'll amass so much money in that account that at the end of the 10 or 15-year period, you'll be able to pay off the remaining balance of the 30-year loan, and you'll probably have 10 or 20 grand left over in free cash.
What do you think?
What are you asking her for?
She's the one. She's the one who said, I
because
don't want
if she doesn't go for it, you don't get to do it.
Yeah, I wanted to. She says the total cost of ownership and that kind of stuff. Great.
No problem.
Thanks. Thank you.
Okay, class, it's time for a snap quiz. Let's see if you can get the right answer.
How often do married couples retire at about the same time? 20% of the time? 40% of the time? 60% of the time? Or 80% of the time? Stay tuned for the answer.
One of the best parts of my weekly radio show is taking questions from callers. Here's a sample of a recent call.
My son is 22. When he was a baby, my deceased husband purchased him 2 whole life insurance policies.
Okay.
And they now have a cash value of about $10,000.
Okay.
He doesn't need insurance, and so we were thinking that would it be better to cash those in, invest the money, and then at the point when he needs insurance to purchase term. And his financial advisor wants him to take that money, the cash value, and purchase a universal life policy that's worth like $180,000.
It sounds, Deb, it sounds like you and your son are smarter than the financial advisor.
Right. We went back to him, and my son said, but I'm 22.
With no wife, no children, no house, no obligations.
Right.
Nobody suffers financially if I die. Tell me why I need $185,000 of death benefit.
Right, exactly.
And what did the guy? And what was the answer?
He said, well, if you just cash it in, there could be a tax.
Oh, no.
Oh, my goodness. The fear tactic.
Yeah, there it is. Oh, my goodness, you have to pay taxes. Hey, you know, it's really funny. I was talking with Pat Day, one of the advisors in our office, and he said something I thought was just so brilliant. He says this a lot to his clients, but I'd never heard him say it. He said, my goal is to put you in the highest tax bracket in America, which I thought was hysterical. But if you think about it, Deb, it's true. I don't think Bill Gates is upset about the fact that he's in the highest tax bracket. The alternative is to be in the lowest tax bracket. And if you really want your taxes to go away, we can show you how to do that.
Yeah.
You know,
But her son can't possibly have a high tax to worry about to begin with.
Right, because he's young, probably not making a lot of money.
Probably not making a lot of money, and the tax is only on any gains above the premiums that have been paid on this policy,
which can't be much.
Yeah. Right. Now he would be taxed at my rate, which, as we discussed it, because he's in medical school and I am supporting him.
Okay.
But the issue is, well,
you still have it right, Deb. There is
right.
no this advisor is not
more money
Deb,
and forget about the tax.
Deb, this advisor is not an advisor. He's an insurance salesman. And he recognizes that he earns a far greater commission selling a universal life insurance policy to a 22-year-old than he will ever earn selling your son mutual funds or exchange-traded funds or stocks or bonds or any other kind of investment. So you need to do what you described and fire that advisor, quote unquote, and go get a real advisor.
Thank you very much.
Hey, quick question for you.
Mm-hmm.
What is a fair way to measure the success or lack thereof of a financial planner? If you go in and you sit down and you say, here's where I want to be 20 years from now, and here's how much money I'm going to give you out front, and here's how much money we're going to put in every month. And, for the last year, let's just say starting April 15th to April 15th,
Mm-hmm.
all right? So for the last year, you put in money. The stock market obviously has done pretty well over the last year, despite what's going on this week.
Right.
Then the quick answer you get from the financial planner is, well, this is a 20-year plan, and you can't measure this by just in 1 year. We've got to,
but
you're
Dan,
trying to retire when you're 65.
Yeah, Dan, that's absolutely correct. You can't evaluate the investment results based on 1 year because anything can happen in any 1 year. Look at 2008. Compare that to 1999. I mean, you can't do it on that basis. So how do you fairly evaluate the advisor? It's real simple. Are you on track to achieve your goals? Has the advisor carefully listened to you to collect all of the information that the advisor needs, not only about your investments and your savings rate and your income and your debts and so on, but your personality, your attitude, your risk tolerance, your goals and objectives, your fears and your aspirations, those of your family as well, so that we can devise a series of recommendations that will help you achieve your goals within a manner that enables you to do so. And as long as we are accomplishing all of that and giving you comprehensive advice, not just for investments, but also about insurance and mortgages and taxes and employee benefits at work and so on, that's how you evaluate them on a long-term basis.
Married couples retire at about the same time, only 20% of the time.
Michelle Singletary is the long-running columnist at the Washington Post. The Color of Money has been in print now for over 14 years, and it's now syndicated in more than 100 newspapers across the country. Michelle's also the author of 3 books, most recently, The Power to Prosper, and she gallivants around the country speaking at events nationwide, along with doing lots of radio, television, and online as well. And Michelle and I have sparred on more than one occasion on stage. So we're very happy to welcome Michelle Singletary to the program. Hi, Michelle.
Oh, it's good to be with you again.
You too. So one of the themes that you are best known for in your column, The Color of Money, is Big Mama. Everybody who writes columns in our field tends to talk about the Wall Street analysts, the economists, the highfalutin folks, but not you.
No.
It was your grandmother.
That's right.
Talk about what she taught you.
You know, I went to live with my grandmother when I was about 4 years old. It was myself and my 4 brothers and sisters, so 5 total. And I watched her through the years handle her money in a way that it's almost on a miracle basis. She was a nursing assistant, never made more than probably $13,000 a year. Paid her bills on time, didn't believe in debt, owned her home, retired, mortgage-free on this little teeny salary.
While raising these 5 grandchildren.
5 grandchildren, and she did not take public assistance. Other than the medical assistance, she did not. She refused it, even though she was entitled to it. And I thought, if this woman can do this, what are the rest of us fussing about? And she was truly the best financial planner I have ever met. No offense.
No, none taken. Did she talk with you about what she was doing with her money, or was it merely your observations of what she was doing?
She did both. We were quite aware of how perilous it could be at times because my grandfather had a drinking problem, so sometimes his money didn't make it home. And she would talk about how it was a struggle, and she would talk about the importance of saving. Like whenever she would say, if you get a penny, cut it in half. I don't know how you would exactly do that, but she's like, always put money aside. Whatever you get, if you get $1, put some money aside. And she was very basic because she didn't believe in investing. Because she was very, she came from a different generation.
Well, she remembered the crash.
She remembered the crash, so she did not believe in investing. And I always joked that, the only bond she had was the bond adhesive for her dentures. So she didn't teach me about investing, but she did teach me 2 key things: to live below my means and to save.
The value of saving.
The value of saving and the value of keeping your sense of entitlement in check.
And the fact that it's all up to me. She wasn't looking for the government handouts to get her through.
Right. That's exactly right. I mean, here's a woman with 5 children. No one would have begrudged her taking that welfare. Nobody. How could you? She was taking us in, keeping us from foster care. And she did not like the fact that they would come into your home. That was the time when they would come in and tell you what you could have and tell you what you do with their money. And she says, no, I'm going to raise them on my own. And I just thought, here's this woman, never took, that kind of money that would have definitely helped us in our household. And yet she was able to do some things that just, I'm astounded
So
to
what's
this
wrong
day.
with the rest of us then?
I think a couple of things. We have a high sense of entitlement in this country. We teach it to our kids. It's everywhere on television. Our government, our corporations, everybody thinks I should get what I want when I want it, whether I have the money for it or not. And I think that makes people always feel dissatisfied. we are being under attack by marketing machines. I mean, every single day you turn on the television, every billboard, the radio, what you have is not good enough. You got to update it. I mean, you had iPad 1, and before you know it, there's iPad 2, before you've even paid off the iPad 1. So there's always this sense of dissatisfaction, and also that somebody's getting more than you got.
So how do we break out of that vicious cycle so that we get off of that treadmill that gets in the way of our achieving our goals?
You know, I'm a very faithful person, and I think that we have to have an attitude of gratitude. I mean, my goodness, if you just looked, when you finish watching this program, just look in your house and see how much abundance that you have. I always tell people, it's like, how do you save? I was just like, stop spending.
Well, let me ask you a question, Michelle, because your grandmother instilled in you, partly from her behaviors, but also the economic reality. You had very little clothing because she couldn't afford to buy you more.
Right.
Your daughter isn't growing up in that household because you and your husband are obviously far more affluent than your Big Mama was. So how are you teaching your daughter to understand this principle?
That is so funny because actually my daughter is living like I did. You'd be surprised.
By her choice or yours?
By my choice. I am actually, you know, we have a nice house, obviously, and, you know, double door closets in my daughter's room. But if you open those double doors, only about half of that closet is full. And they have a limited amount of clothes. They have a limited amount of shoes.
She's a teenager.
She's a teenager, trust me. Which is why I'm saving for my own retirement, because she will not take care of me after I have made her suffer. My husband and I have decided to deny our children a lot of what their peers have.
But let's face it, Michelle, you and your husband both work full time, you're very busy, and when you come home and your daughter says, why can't I have another pair of jeans? It's a whole lot easier to just give her a credit card and send her to the mall.
That's right.
And that's what I think a lot of parents do, because you have to choose your battles. So where did you get the fortitude to say, okay, this is a battle I am going to fight and win?
Right.
How'd you do that?
I think because I see so much as a columnist, people, like I'm sure you do, I get emails every single day of my life. I'm sure you do too. Every single day of my life, people in debt, people in trouble. And I'm not just talking about people making $20,000 a year. I'm talking about joint couples making $200,000 a year. And they're in debt and they're in trouble. And I see that, and I don't want that for my children. I have the ability to see down the road because I've been down that road. And because I've been down that road, I know what's ahead, and I'm willing to take the pot shots for my children. My daughter wants to be a teacher, elementary school teacher.
Which is a very highly paying profession.
Absolutely. She's going to make a boatload of money, right? But I'm not discouraging of that. You know, I live in the Washington area, and, you know, you go to the little soirees, and everybody's like, oh, my child wants to be a doctor, and my child wants to be a lawyer, and my child wants to be a scientist. And if I say my child wants to be a teacher, like, it's the parting of the sea. You know, like, somehow I didn't do my job as a parent.
Which is really sad, considering the incredible importance and value of school teachers.
Exactly. But I need to teach her how to live on a teacher's salary, because you can. And I know that you can because one of your books, it said extraordinary wealth. And these were people who had regular jobs.
Right.
And that's what I know, knowing that that's the career that she's chosen, that I'm going to teach her how to live on that teacher's salary and not bemoan the fact that that's how much she's earning.
Michelle, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It's so good to be with you all the time. I don't know about you, but I'm having too much fun talking with Michelle Singletary. So we're going to present part 2 of our conversation on next week's program. Be sure to tune in for that. Before we go, are you in debt? If you are, you'd love to find a way out of it, but be careful, because your desire to get out of debt quickly could cause you to make your situation even worse. Watch out for outfits that claim that they can get rid of your debt for you, and never pay any fees up front, because honest debt counseling firms don't do that. And some firms want you to give them your financial information only so they can steal your identity. There are some good organizations that can help, and we list them at thetruthaboutmoneytv.com. But please remember, it took time for you to create that debt, and it will take some time and effort to get rid of it. And that's The Truth About Money. I'm Ric Edelman. Thanks for watching.